Hello everyone! Today we're diving into a deeper truth about Mr. Fun Computer, the character who has recently transformed from a helpful friend into the villain of our story. We'll also explore the terrifying events that have left the remaining survivors in the eerie world of Sprunky in a constant state of fear and uncertainty. If you have your own theories about what's happening in this mysterious world, please don't hesitate to share them in the comments. Remember to subscribe, give the video a thumbs up, and share it with your friends. Your support really means everything to us and helps us keep bringing these stories to life. So, without further ado, let's jump right in. Our first theory comes from a dedicated fan, Magaga Mbot, who shared their idea on the Incredibox Sprunky Wiki. They propose an intriguing concept. The entire Sprunky world may not even be real, but could actually be a creation within a child's mind. According to this theory, Mr. Funbot represents the child himself, and his presence is a reminder to him that everything he sees in this world is just an illusion, a way of coping with something unimaginable. This theory goes even further, suggesting that the familiar characters in Sprunky were once part of a TV show the child enjoyed watching, but a life-shattering event changed everything. The child witnessed the murder of his mother, leaving him deeply traumatized. In Mr. Tree's photograph, we see a vague, mysterious figure that could be the murderer. The blurred image isn't due to any physical limitations. Instead, it represents the child's desperate attempt to block the horrifying memory from his mind. As for Mr. Computer, he could actually symbolize the child himself. He's the only character with a voice in this world, which may signify the child's need to maintain some form of control and connection with reality. Mr. Computer's face, especially when he's silent, resembles a child's face, and even his cap hints at childhood. This striking difference from the other characters might be a clue that Mr. Computer isn't merely another resident of Sprunky, but represents something much closer to the core of this tragic story. Let us know what you think in the comments below. Could this theory be true, or do you have a different perspective on the mysterious world of Sprunky? We're eager to hear your insights and see where your imagination takes you. This next theory dives even deeper into the mysterious and tragic nature of Sprunky. What if Black isn't just an ordinary character in this strange world, but actually a person from the real world who somehow ended up in Sprunky? Imagine that Black was once a scientist, involved in a high-stakes, top-secret research project. It's possible that during the course of this project, something went terribly wrong, leading to unintended consequences that affected many people. As a result, these people began to seek revenge on Black, blaming him for the project's disastrous outcome. In fact, they may have gone so far as to kidnap his daughter, using her as leverage to force Black into compliance or silence. In a desperate attempt to set things right, Black tried to undo the damage, but unfortunately, he failed. He was forced to leave his old life behind and flee, seeking a new place to escape from the enemies he had made. His search for refuge eventually led him to Sprunky City, where he thought he could start fresh. But the trauma and guilt over losing his daughter took a heavy toll on his mind. Black, struggling to cope with his grief, began to feel increasingly out of place in the lively, vibrant world of Sprunky. The pain of his past life twisted him into something darker, eventually driving him to create chaos and commit horrible acts against the inhabitants of Sprunky. At some point, Black realized he couldn't achieve his destructive goals alone. He needed a partner, someone who could understand and even share his dark vision. That's when he noticed Jevin, a quiet, secretive figure who kept to himself, often lurking in the shadows. Intrigued, Black likely started to learn more about Jevin's background and discovered that he was a member of a cult, which only strengthened Black's belief that Jevin would make the perfect ally. Perhaps Jevin's involvement with the cult had already exposed him to darker aspects of life, making him more open to Black's malevolent plan. This could also explain why Jevin doesn't transform like the other characters in horror mode. Instead, he becomes even more mysterious and sinister, hinting that he may have long been hiding a darker side. This leads us to the core of the theory. Black and Jevin didn't just commit isolated acts of violence, they actually plotted to wipe out the entire population of Sprunky together. But they weren't the only ones involved. Wenda, another character, eventually joined their cause. Most likely, Black and Jevin manipulated and tormented Wenda, breaking her will until she finally gave in and began helping them. By mentally shattering Wenda, they turned her into a pawn, convincing her to kill other Sprunky in order to aid Black's twisted agenda. The theory suggests that at some point, Gray witnessed Wenda in the act of killing another Sprunky. The shock of what he saw triggered intense paranoia, as he was likely the first to realize the full scope of what was happening in Sprunky City. In a state of terror, Gray managed to escape, finding a place to hide where he remained undetected. Though he survived, the horrific events he experienced left him psychologically scarred, haunted by the trauma of what he had seen. So, what do you think of this theory? Does it explain the sinister transformation of Black, Jevin, and Wenda, as well as the lingering fear that drives Gray to hide? Share your thoughts in the comments. Do you think this theory could actually be true? Or is there something else lurking beneath the surface in the world of Sprunky? This next theory is quite intriguing and delves into the dark events that might have transpired in the city of Sprunky, ultimately leading to the tragic fate of its inhabitants who either died or suffered immensely. The theory proposes that a tight-knit group of friends formed a club called Sprunky Incredibox, where they enjoyed each other's company and shared their love for music. They would come together regularly, creating joyful memories and pursuing their shared passion as a collective. However, everything changed when a new member named Black joined the club. Initially welcomed with open arms, his presence would soon prove to be a catalyst for chaos. At some point, Wenda found herself alone with Black, and that's when things took a sinister turn. Black began whispering disturbing phrases like, "kill them," and "life is meaningless." These words were insidious and began to seep into Wenda's mind, slowly eroding her sense of reality. The more she heard his whispered commands, the more they consumed her thoughts, creating a mental prison from which she couldn't escape. Over time, Wenda became increasingly unstable and could not distinguish between right and wrong. Eventually, she lost control, succumbing to the madness that Black had instigated within her. As midnight struck, Wenda embarked on a horrifying spree of violence that would shock the entire community. She made her way to Oren's house first, tearing open his chest in a brutal act of violence and slashing his eyelids with her claws, leaving a gruesome scene behind. Not content with just one victim, she moved on to Pinky's house, where she viciously cut her face, ensuring that the horror continued. Wenda's rampage didn't stop there. Next, she went to Brood's place. Upon arriving, she removed the bucket that was stuck on his head and used it as a weapon to carve a piece from his skull. The transformation from a friend to a monster was complete, as Wenda embraced her role in this deadly nightmare. Afterward, she ran to Tunner's house, where she stole his gun and struck him on the head while he was still asleep, adding to her growing list of victims. Her violence escalated further when she arrived at Venaria's house. There, she brutally tore out his eyes and ripped out his stems, leaving the community in fear and disbelief. Finally, Wenda made her way to Sky's house, where she grabbed poles from his yard and drove them into him, sealing her fate as a serial killer. By this point, Wenda had officially crossed the line into madness, becoming a figure of terror in the city of Sprunky, a far cry from the fun-loving friend she once was. Well, that's all from me. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and give it a thumbs up. Your support really motivates us to create more engaging videos. Thank you for watching, good luck to everyone, and see you next time.